Welcome, Roman, to Metaladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Bizarrekvlt, this new album, well, then Tap the Kriegen, and other things related to the metal world. Starting when a common question: how are you been during the last years? Problems everywhere. Do you think these problems everywhere is a great influence or great inspirations to new lyrics, to music for the artist?
If you can repeat the question, how was it?
So, do you think these difficult times, talking about the pandemic, war,
Yes.
Economical problems, social problems, is are we related very clear, very near with the aspects to the influence or the main sources to do more music, no?
Well, I think so, definitely, because I wrote most of the music, or actually all this music for this album, and also all the lyrics during the pandemics, and when everybody had home office. So I had a little bit more time for thinking about different things, a little bit more time to not to travel to work, but instead of that, go to the forest and just think about things in my life and so on. And then because everybody was at home, I had not that much social interaction. So I spend this time on reflecting on my life and what I'm doing and so on. So it was, in a way, it was very productive, I think. But I mean, of course, it's very challenging time. Otherwise, it's difficult for everyone with regards to economics and
Okay, so talking about this subject of living influence and feeling what happens internally and externally for the musician, many musicians say that they don't have a direction when they're writing music, and when they write music and carry away by the feelings they have in the moment, as I told in first question. So for you, how do the parts of producing an album connect with the idea of sensation of it? Could we say that the music is a concept thinking, or perhaps the music is a concept not thinking?
Well, the music is, I create something all the time, so I don't really have any concept. It's more like, I just play something, and if I like it, I memorize it and put it on the computer for after use. But then with lyrics, it's a little bit more conceptual, because if I decide that I would like to only take those topics, then if I already, because normally I have music first and then I write the words, and it's like when I decide on the topic for this particular song, for example, then I extend the topic, what I would like to put in the song and so on.
Okay, I saw that you start your career in Russia, but then years later, I don't know when exactly, but years later you moved to the Norway. So is this move to Norway has to do with the war in Russia to Ukraine, or perhaps was before?
No. Well, I left Russia like 15 years ago or something like this. So it's a long time ago, and it's basically, I'm a life scientist by education, so think of biology, medicine, and I was simply looking for research experience in other countries. So that's why simply, when I was done with my university, I just went for other jobs in Europe, and then after some few movements, I ended up in Norway. So eventually, I stayed here, and I don't have any other plans to move. It's been for probably too many years here to move further. It's like, okay, I'm happy with everything, so there's no point to move.
Okay. So can we say that the two albums from Bizarrekvlt are created in Norway, in northern Russia?
Yes, exactly. These two albums were created here. So for the previous one, it was like I started writing it in 2009, 2010, when I had I built a band here in Norway, and we have been preparing this music to go into studio. But then for me, it was difficult to combine job, and I also had a small child. So it was very difficult for me to have enough time for music. And the guys were more like looking into playing live and so on. And I simply said, sorry, guys, I don't have enough time for this. So yeah, we just stopped rehearsing, and I eventually I stopped doing anything with music. So just to return, basically in 2019, a friend of mine started asking me, yeah, let's record this music because it's really sounds interesting, and it's a waste if you just leave it in on the computer. So yeah, we just recorded this music. So basically the previous album is basically the music that I created in Bergen in Norway, like in 2009, 2010. But then of course, with a little bit more refreshed ideas, and then the lyrics, I wrote it in 2019, 20. But then the album that is coming out this week, it's written in 2020, 21.
Mhm.
So I mean, basically everything is written in Norway, in music and lyrics, everything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I ask this because I reading about some information reading about some information of the web. I asked it about the last question about searching a lot of information for Bizarrekvlt on the web, and I
Yeah.
saw that the band was created 2005. But you told me
Yes.
a few minutes ago that the band exactly created in 2009, 2010. So the official
Well, I
creation
mean,
date.
I started the band like as one man band in 2005, 6, when I was still living in Russia. But then I left, and it was like, I mean, it was just a studio project basically when I started it. So, typical one man band. And yeah, I recorded all the instruments myself at this in 2005, 6, and then I had a drummer on the record. But then yeah, I had those relocations, and then when I was in Norway for the first years, I decided, okay, I build up a live band, I'll play with people, and we had some work. So I wrote these songs. But then yeah, like I said, I had to stop it because of work and family and so on.
Ah,
So yeah,
okay,
it's been a long time from creation to now. It's like, yeah, almost 18 years now.
Okay. Okay. And what do you think about the a lot of reviewers, when I read some reviews from your last one, your previous record, I
Yeah.
read that the band is from Russia, not from Norway. So what do you think that is still have that Russia presence in your music, or is just Norway in general?
Well, I mean, it's like, it's very difficult for me to say what is Russian in the music. It's more like it's simply because I grew up there. I have a little bit different cultural, exposure from childhood and culture and so on. So maybe it has some influence at some point, but it's very difficult for me to say. So, but then maybe when it comes to lyrics, it's the way I speak about feelings, openly, not writing just something about, I don't know, something, I don't know, about magic or dark things about religion, but speaking more about soul and your feelings and things like that. So maybe we can attribute this to my cultural background because
Hmm?
I read a lot of Russian literature, and so things
Hmm?
like that.
Okay, okay. Well, one thing that I saw into your music is that the first album has the same aspects. Talking about the cover art, the same aspects in the first album be overlapped with this last one, because the covers are very related, black, white,
Yes.
and something with cities into the one. I love in the first parts, but the second cover art is like insect there, and like the first album are more like the well, like an animal there. So
Yeah.
exactly. So what try to reflect in your cover arts with this
Yeah.
with nature? Because I saw a lot of nature into there.
Yes. So basically, this both cover arts is the same artist. And here in both of the arts, it's connected to lyrics of the songs. So how we work with him is that I explain him what the songs are about, what kind of topics I have, and then he suggests me how he sees it, what can match. Because it's like so when we were recording the album Vi Overlevde, and when I decided to make everything in Norwegian, it's like the first question that you have is, of course, how do you translate the message? Because everything is in Norwegian and not many people understand the language, right? And if you would like to show people that it's something different than average band that sings about, I don't know, Christianity and Satan and things like that, and then you want to show that this is something different. So this cover art in a way invites you to think a little bit more about what's going on. And it's not just the cover art, but for the design we made different artworks. Like on the previous album, it's every song has a dedicated artwork that is connected to lyrics. So there are more different subjects there. This moose, then the owl, and there's a burning sheep, and so on. So there are different things there. And then and for example, this moose, this animal, the elk on the previous album, is connected to the song called Handsome Head. It's loneliness, solitude, and this is a lonely animal, which is it's anthropomorphic metaphor in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a lonely person that has something like a burden. This person carries the weight on the shoulders, so that's why it's with trees and something like that. And then this animal is super big and the mountains are small. And so here it's trying to show that for this subject, for this person, his or her burden is much more heavy than everything around. It's like for this lonely person, everything is so hard that the mountains are too small for this person. It's just this loneliness and this suffering and the baggage, the luggage that this person has on the shoulders that is really important.
Mm. Okay.
So
Okay.
then, and then on this second album, it's like we changed the scale from really big animal into something really small. And then we have many, because insect is really small in comparison to moose, right? But then what you see here is that, so they're like on the cover, it's bugs, but then inside you see also bees and other animals, not animals, but insects. And then this is to show that actually, of course, every person has the luggage, the problems, the troubles that they have, but then there are really a lot of people, and we are in a way on the same, we are all on the same scale, we all are small and we are similar. So that's why there are two bugs that are more, you can think it's the same bug that is fighting with itself, like in the mirror. They are fighting each other, but it's in reality it can be one person just fighting himself, his own problems, his own personality. And if you see on the back, there are also castles and towns and cities and houses. It's like it's like castles of dreams or your aims or your goals, which are now in ruins. Because when you live your life, it's like not always you get what you want, and sometimes it's because it's not possible, but sometimes because you destroy your own life.
Mm.
So that's basically the idea and the connection. And it's also connected to a book called The Life of Insects.
Yeah.
So it's like a postmodern picture where it's also through different types of insects. The author, he tried to show different aspects of human life, so yeah,
Okay.
society and your own personality and things like that.
Okay. So on talking about the now the Norwegian lyrics, because you spoke all this both albums in Norwegian. Did
Yeah.
you think in the past to create lyrics in English for them to get more, well, to get more listeners around the world. Because as you said, it's very difficult to understand what exactly says in your lyrics
Yeah,
if
yeah,
if you don't have Google Translate, perhaps.
yeah. So I mean, I know it's really a problem, but I mean, it's in a way, this is like, and this is how I feel it, that this should be done like that, because, you know, it's like, this is the language I speak every day at work and, you know, with people, with, you know, at schools and everywhere. So for me, it's simply natural to use Norwegian. And then for the listeners, I provide on Bandcamp, for example, I provide translation that I make myself. I translate Norwegian to English so people can go there and check what is actually what is there. And then, like, for this new album, when it's a new video coming out or something like this, I also provide a little bit background, what I actually mean with this song and so on. And actually, you are not the first person who asked me about this. When we were on the tour, in the autumn, we have been playing in Europe with two other bands, Der Weg naar Vrijheid and Regarde les Hommes from France and Germany. And in one of the concerts in Germany, there was a man coming to me asking exactly the same, why you don't use English, because then you would have more listeners and so on. But you see, it's not about getting more listeners. It's about, you know, this is how I am. This is how I want my music and my voice to sound. And it's like, and I told the guy, well, you don't go to the art gallery and don't tell to the painter, why you don't use yellow? I like yellow on the picture, you know? It's like, okay, you like it or you don't like it. Something can be more like interesting for many people, something less interesting, but it's you know, it's just because for me it's a question of identity, you know, how I see myself. And then, like on this new album, I use a little bit of Russian in few songs as well, and this also has a meaning. It's not just because, okay, let's do some mix of languages. No, it's like with this song Den Tapte Kriegen, it starts in Russian but ends up in Norwegian, and it's also to connect it to one of the stories in this book, Life of Insects, where one of the insects lives in a place, and then he decides that everything is really not interesting here. I need to go somewhere else, you know. And then, because everything here is boring, people are boring, life is bad, it's dirty, and so on. I don't like how everybody looks. So this insect digs in the ground, comes to another place, everything looks very different. And so this insect, you know, cuts the mustache and like looks like everybody there and behaves like them. But after some time, he understands that it's his problems, they are still the same. His relationship with people is the same. It's just that the cosmetic aspects are different. People talk with different language, they dress a little bit differently, the houses look a bit different, but it's still the same. He is still the same person that had the very same problem before and now. And I mean, it's in a way connected to this, to the words in this song as well. This idea that, okay, you start there, you end up there, but you know, you didn't really go anywhere, because so this Den Tapte Krigen means the lost war. So it's like this struggle with life. If you continue it with, you know, pushing yourself, looking for goals that you don't need, you know, like not really working on yourself, but for somebody else, and you know, not really asking what you really need. And in the end, regardless of what language it is, what is around you, where you are, you eventually lose this life, you know. Anyway, this fight is not possible to win if you don't ask what actually you want to do, you know. So, and then this language doesn't matter. But you know, it's like in this song, it's a mix of ideas with a little bit military setting, but it has nothing to do with war. It's just to have some images that are probably easier for people to understand because of the language barrier as well, you know. But then, of course, because of this, people start to ask questions that are not related to actually what you have in mind. And in a way, I think it is, yeah, sad and unfortunate, the coincidence, because I put up this music video, and it's in Russian language, and it's about some guys in uniform in the forest. And then people start automatically asking, is it related to conflict that is unfortunately ongoing now? And then it's like, for me, it's like, of course not, because if I wrote this in 2020, how can this be, of any relevance? It's more about, putting, because there in this video, this first, like, there are two soldiers basically, right? But then when the first one kills the other one, he takes off the masks, and he sees that it's actually his face, so he basically killed himself. There's this struggle between yourself, like you are pushing the goals, but in the end you actually just burn out.
Okay, so one thing that, well, one of the last things that he said is some people, I think the gatekeepers from the black metal, or the police, or the black metal police fans, and has a stigma into into their beliefs, into the what they think about the black metal, because in the 90s, some bands are spoken in the native language. A lot of examples in Ukraine and Norway, etc., Finland, etc., etc. And these aspects, usually this related with the national issues, as you can see, because a lot of bands talking about and Finland especially put a lot of flags, a lot of this nazism, etc., etc. So are you afraid that this relates to your music, because when you just speak in Norway?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's like, Norway from this aspect is very special, because it's in principle very patriotic country. Like, there's this national patriotic romanticism in people in principle. Like, if you come here to see, or if you just try to Google online 17th of May, like everybody tries to dress up with their national costumes. Everything is just stacked with flags everywhere. And I mean, it has nothing to do with what people mean as, negative nationalism. It's more like, we are happy that we are what we are, but it doesn't mean that we are better or something like this. It's more like, yeah, okay, well, this is our country and this is what we do. So I think, in a way, I don't have any problem. I mean, but sometimes, people mix this. They use their own language just to promote the idea that, oh, this is so important to showcase that this is, some national ideas. But yeah, I don't have anything to do with that. And I mean, it's like, I know quite many musicians here. I don't really know any person who is really, into this stuff. It's like, if you think more about, like, almost 30 years ago, right, 90s in Norway, it's like, okay, well, younger people wanted to, do something extreme, right?
Yeah.
And then when you are young and you are extreme, you're full of different ideas. So it can be a little bit on the edge. But yeah, and some people, there are of course very small amounts of people that are really like extreme, right? But then, like in everything in life, it's like just a few individuals, so very small groups.
Yeah. So when you are into one like a new movement of black metal, they mix a lot of depressive stuff, a lot of the positive stuff. Because if we compare with the 90s, the black metal are more stronger, raw, and
Yeah.
savage in many ways. But since 2010, I think 2010, the bands from black metal are usually done by solo projects, like you start a band. Other bands talks about, as you say, personal experience, or sorrow, nature,
Yeah.
loneliness, and a lot of things. So perhaps, do you think this new era in black metal are more consciousness talking about especially to the earth?
Well, I mean, it's like there are still people that are looking for this 90s atmosphere, and people who still are with the same ideas. But I don't know. I mean, it's for me, it's a little bit difficult to speak on their behalf in a way because I'm not really, I'm not really from there. It's like one of those bigger names. He said, yeah, but you haven't been there in the 90s. You can't really judge us. Well, okay, well, I'm not judging anyone. I'm not even belong there in a way. It's like we can, as you say, it's like a new generation. And for many people who are looking for, like, let's say, true or more like old school black metal, what I would do is not really a black metal. And I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that. It's like, you know, okay, well, I'm just doing what I like to do. If somebody would like to call it black metal, let it be. For me, it's not really that important, to be within the framework of just a genre or cliche or something like this. It's more like I do what I feel I would like to do. And yeah, if I don't want to do it, I stop.
Okay, okay. Well, we're talking a little more about this album and now relating to the music. What are the biggest difference that exists compared to your previous record?
What is the biggest difference?
Yes.
Well, there are actually many differences in a way for me. So it's a difference in, like, it's a little bit more melodic in a way, because if you think about it, that the previous album is music that I wrote in 2009, 2010, and then this is something that I wrote 10 years later. So of course I'm a different person. It's like, you can't really compare it in a way. But yeah, so it's more melodic. It's a little bit more. Um, it's of course a little bit slower. Also, if you compare, like, the previous album is faster. This one is a little bit more calm and slower. Then we did a very different approach to how we worked with the sound producer, because the music is more dynamic. There's more dynamic range, and the sound itself is if you think about guitars, for example, the sound is not that, there's not that much distortion, on the guitars. It's a little bit more, yeah, I don't know, it's different. It's not that distorted sound. And then the bass guitar, it received a little bit more central role in how the songs are built on, because when you have a lot of different melodies and like chords and so on the guitars, it's you need to have a foundation in the music that sounds the same through all the songs, right? And that's the bass and the drums. They are more or less the same through the whole album, like how they sound, what effects are used, and so on. But then the guitars are different, because you have faster parts, you have very melodic parts, like almost clean guitars and so on. So it's like we used very different approach to how we organize the music. The sound landscape is very different, I think. And then also the female vocals received a little bit different role, because on the first album it was like just a suggestion from my wife. Oh, let's try it. Okay, well, we try it. Okay, it sounds okay. But then for this second album, it's when I was writing the music, I already thought, okay, here I want to have your voice and these words, and this is the melody that I see here. So it's like the female vocal is more integrated in music right from the start. And yeah, in principle, I think it is a little bit more open in a way, a little bit more diverse, a little bit less concentrated on, like, okay, we have some great riffs here, like in the first album, but a little bit more, okay, here I want to have something a little bit more melancholic or, beautiful in a way.
Okay, we are very close to this interview, Roman. For that, what are the future plans that the band has for this new then Tactic Creaking? Perhaps a European tour, perhaps who knows? It's possible to do a tour in United States or perhaps in Latin America. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, so far we have confirmed appearance at the club show for Inferno Festival in Norway, and then we have another one in the autumn in Trondheim. It's also in Norway, and yeah, it's a little bit difficult to say yet what else would come, because I'm in discussions, and until something is confirmed, I'm not really able to say. But I have, like you say, high hopes for Latin America. So maybe we make it this year. I don't know. It's like it would be really fantastic to go over the ocean. It's really interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Roman, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. You are terrific.
Thank you.
The ones were great questions, were great answers. So perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metallurium followers?
Well, thank you so much for following the band. I really appreciate everyone who sends a message or just puts a like or whatever on, or listens to the music. It's really appreciated. It's really valued for me. Yeah, and I really hope we can make it to Latin America. That would be awesome to meet people, because I know I've heard only positive things, like the band from Portugal, Garia. They have been in Latin America, and they said it's really fantastic and great. So I hope we can get this experience, because yeah, it's really like it's a different continent. We've never been there. It's very interesting.
Yeah.